What's up, peeps? Nick Battle, aka NinosCorner, man. First off, if you like this channel, hit that subscribe button. Means a lot, man. But hey, I am not going to go too far into this. Well, first off, give a shout out to my sponsor first, man. My sponsor, guys, is Manscaped, manscaped.com. Guys, I know all my folks here are laughing at me because, hey, support for the Nino podcast is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below the waist grooming champions of the world. Manscaped just launched their fourth generation trimmer, the Lawnmower 4.0. You heard that right, the 4.0. Join over 2 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer for you. 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the code NinosCorner at manscaped.com. But, folks, we are here for this Texas football roundtable. We got some pretty special guests here, man. We got my boy Texas Homer, a.k.a. Connor from the Texas Homer, his show on YouTube. We got Clint, man, from Texas Football Talk. We got Matt Myers here from Texas Platinum, Lando from the Lando Show, and my boy Steven from FP Fanatic Perspective. But we got a Texas football roundtable discussion to talk about everything Texas football here on this week off.
Let's do it.
Guys, what's going on, everybody? Ready. Get your popcorn ready. All right, guys. Hey, I'm going to kick this off, man. I'm going to kick this off and say, look, we are 4-3 right now. All right. Did anybody think we were going to be 4-3 after 7 games? And I'll kick this over to Homer. What's up, Homer?
I don't know about that exact number, but I expected to kind of be where we're at. My view was about 8 wins on the season before we got into it, just kind of trying to look as unbiased as I could at the moment. So, yeah, I don't know if it's exactly 4-3 split or something like that, but I'm not totally shocked by what we're seeing.
Steve?
So coming into the season, I picked us to go 9-3. So right now we don't have any margin left, the last 5 games. Did I think we'd be 2-2 in the Big 12 at this point? Because one of my 3, the reason why I picked 9-3 was I didn't think we would go 2-0 to start the year. I thought we would either have a hiccup against Louisiana or what happened in Fayetteville. Now, did I think it would happen to the degree that it happened in Fayetteville? No, but it did. I didn't think we'd drop Oklahoma State. That's the game where I'm like, you're at home. I want to go undefeated at home at DKR. I think that's a fair ask. Did I have us losing Oklahoma? I think everybody had OU being that dominant team this year. So at 2-2 in the Big 12, with the way things are kind of worked out, it's a little frustrating, at least from my viewpoint.
Hey, Matt, how about you, Matt?
Right, yeah, I had it at 9-3 also going into the year, and I guess 4-3 is kind of where I had us at because I had us drop into TCU as well instead of Oklahoma State. But it's just really become disappointing because we've seen like the flashes with this team, especially on offense, and it just kind of has all come to a screeching halt the last 2 weeks, and we're kind of back to square one when it seems like we had a lot of momentum going. So, yeah, I expected this kind of going into the season, but it feels a lot worse. Like I kind of expected it to be reversed, where we started off slower and then I started running off some wins down the stretch after OU, but it seems like it may be going the opposite way, which is not a good sign.
Yeah. Lando, how about you, brother?
Yeah, man, not really to repeat anything that's already been said. I kind of agree with all the aforementioned. I just think that we're seeing, I agree that to me, the biggest difference really is, I think the trenches, the lack of depth within the trenches has been the ultimate difference for this team. I actually had us at 8-4, but I will say that, I think we are seeing Steve Sarkisian, at least on the offensive side of the football, right? Everything is that they're so good at scheming for their opponent leading up to their particular matchup, and everything is in cahoots with the play calling, and everything is just so dialed up. But it's like we're masking our deficiencies with the problems up front, and that's really why we're seeing the fast starts, because Sarkisian can script all that stuff. But once the defense sees kind of how we're choosing to attack them for that particular day, they make the adjustment. We just don't have the ability to hold up in the trenches. So I think that's been the key for me thus far.
Gotcha. Clint, how about you, brother?
Yeah, 9-3 was probably where we were going to be at. I think, consistently playing. I think we're 2 games consistently playing 4 quarters for being 6-1. I think that's That's the thing that bothers me the most. Is it second half adjustments, or I think just like Lando said, is it he's scheming around those first 35 play calls that he has? Is that scheming against the defense? And as soon as you're done with those 35 plays, that's it. That's all we have in the tank. And because that's what it feels like each and every weekend is that you get through that first half, even on the defense side of the ball. I mean, all of a sudden in the third quarter, we fall apart. Fourth quarter, it's like game over. We can't consistently do well on the defense side of the ball. We're not consistently doing well on the offense side of the ball. So I had us losing to Oklahoma. That was the only loss. Obviously Fayetteville, Arkansas was going to be a tough draw there at night against Arkansas. So as it sits today, I probably had us at 6-1 going, into Baylor and then going to Iowa State, and then probably, finish at 9-3.
Hey, Clint, I'm with you, man. I had us, going in, now probably about 6-1, also, but I had us going around 9-3. But my thing is, I was not expecting to see what happened against Arkansas, but that just lets us know how far behind we are when it comes to the offensive line and the defensive line. We got bullied that game. I mean, we got totally manhandled that game. It shows our, lack of girth in the trenches, man. We have nobody in the trenches right now. Nothing against the guys that are, actually on the team right now, but we just don't have the depth. We don't have the depth, the size. We don't have those athletes. But, but getting back to what Lando said earlier is, guys, I thought the same thing about Steve, about Sark here for the first, 7 games here is his opening script is wonderful, and it is masterful. He has a great script, but it's just the adjustment piece after those first 4 to 5 drives were done. How do you adjust to make your team better? And simply, we just haven't done it here this year, so it's kind of disappointing here, guys, just to see how well he did at Bama. Now, of course, everybody knows he has Bama players, but his scheme never got dull there. And it just seems like our scheme gets dull quarter to quarter, right? So, yeah, it's just kind of heartbreaking to see, man. So, hey, guys, everybody listening, this is the Texas vent session also, all right? So vent, all right?
Group therapy. Hey, Nino, can I add something too?
Yeah.
It's the disappointment. I mean, the record is what it is. I mean, in terms of, before the season, we pick games based upon what our expectations are.
Yeah.
And then football starts and everything changes. Did I think that OU would be 8-0 based upon how they looked? And then if you told me Spencer Rattler wasn't going to make it, right? And like all the craziness, if I told you Iowa would be ranked number 2 before they went down, right? Like once football started, and I think that's part of a fair reason for Texas fans to be frustrated because things seem wide open. It seemed like an opportunity to take advantage of the craziness in college football because how many good teams week to week are there in all of college football? Forget the Big 12. Look at Arkansas. Arkansas started off like gangbusters. They beat us. They beat A&M. And look, now they're at the bottom of the SEC West again.
Yeah.
So we have to take that into context. And so once football starts.
I actually want to go ahead, Clint. Sorry.
Yeah, no. Yeah. So big, like you're talking about, Stephen, it's crazy because you got to think about it. Oklahoma State lost this weekend, right? Texas wins out. Take the burnt orange glass off because I don't think it's going to happen. But Texas wins out. Oklahoma State loses 2 games. You put yourself back in the hunt for the Big 12 championship game. That's what's weird about it, And I don't think there's still an avenue 1, but I just don't think any of these teams that are currently playing. Yeah, I think if you look at Baylor, you look at Oklahoma State, look at Iowa State. I think they're good defensive teams, but can they put up enough points to beat you if you're on your A game on offense? And I think that's what it comes down to.
Yeah. Hey,
I was going to build off of what Steven said too, though. I think all of us in this chat right now, and probably everybody that's listening in as a guest, they understand that there's a layover period whenever you're making the transition from one coaching staff to another. But I think Steven, that's where a lot of the disappointment for us as a group collectively has sort of derived from, is because we knew with a competent coaching staff and the right pieces in place, we could compete and make some noise and see changes, right? But I think that's a little bit like what allowed us to get maybe a little bit out ahead of ourselves and not be completely honest heading into the season is we saw the opportunity that it was to make some noise with a Big 12 as a whole, and a lot of not turmoil, but just situations where they're having to find new pieces and key roles within their roster and within their coaching staff as well. So I think that's part of the derivative of, or just us being disappointed because of overly exuberant expectations heading in.
I think too it was almost a tease, right? Like we were getting up on teams. We were showing that we're capable of it. If it was all just Arkansas games, it'd be like, all right, but we got up on OU. We got up on OK State. Our scheme is nice early. And so I think that's even more heartbreaking is we get teased a little bit on like, hey, we are capable of this, not consistently, but we're capable of it. And I think that's why it hurts even a little bit more than just, if we were bad.
Yeah, got you. Hey, guys, also, man, so, just like Clint said earlier, it is weird. We're still in this. If we win out or even if we lose one game, I don't think any team in the Big 12 is strong enough to go untouched this whole season. OU might do it. I think OU has the juice now with, with Caleb Williams, but every team in the Big 12 can get beaten by any team. Like we just torched Texas Tech, right? Had a horrible defensive game as well, and we still torched them. Texas Tech goes out and blows out West Virginia. West Virginia keeps it close with Oklahoma in OU, right? So Baylor does their thing. Iowa State beats who they beat? Yeah, Okie State. All right. Mm-hmm. All right. So Okie State beats us, but Iowa State gets beat early in the year. Every team has some flaw, and it's just a matter of who gets exposed that week. But something else, guys. I was talking to I think Steve about this earlier, and it was about just the talent that is on this team, right? So we were talking about the offensive line, talking about the defensive line, right? And so when you go down and look at the line, right, all those guys in the line were heavily recruited guys, meaning Denzel Okafor, everybody in the country wanted this kid come out of high school. Jake Majors was a 4-star kid that a bunch of teams wanted. Angelau, 4-star kid, a bunch of kids wanted. So there's the talent, defensive side of the ball. Coburn, he's had offers from everybody, right? Alabama down, Collins, Broughton, all these kids had offers from the big time schools. And so when a new coaching staff comes in, right, they see these guys that they have already looked at, guys that they wanted to go to their school at their last stop, and they get cocky and it's like, oh, you couldn't make this guy work? Oh, well, guess what? I'm going to make him work. And so they don't like pop on the film and see that, yeah, this guy might have been a great guy in high school. He just wasn't developed here enough. And so we've kind of, got away from his true skill set, and he's not the same player that you thought he was coming out of high school. I think that we got a lot of that going on here at Texas. That's just my
great point.
Yeah.
Well, they grade them when there's
chat. Hey, Matt, thanks for the chat, man. Hey guys, a quick question. Did you guys see Rob Babers point out that we don't use motion as much in the second halves, and that is when we struggle? Why do you think that is?
I did.
Matt, we'll get to your question in just a minute. Steven, go ahead and do your thing, man.
Oh, no. So I did see Rod's tweet about that, and I think it drops down to like 50%. It was like in the 70s when we were using pre-snap motion. I think that he metriced in the first half of games, and it's dropping down to 50%. I think that's, could be for a number of reasons. That's something that Steve Sarkisian and the staff have to investigate. I would be curious to see the snaps in conjunction to, distance to down in comparison to our pace in the first half seems to be very different from what our pace is in the second half of these games, especially if you look at OU and what we were trying to do. And I think if they could go back and do it again, mentality wise, they may switch that back up instead of trying to burn clock and whatnot. Yeah. So in terms of the type of plays you're running in distance to down, I think that also can have an impact. It's still in the 50s. I mean, that's still way better than the Tom Herman offense.
Yeah, it's very high.
We weren't using it all.
Where we came from. Yeah,
where we came from. But there is a difference there. That was a good point by Rob Babers.
Yeah, I think in the second half, whenever we get our kind of that weird mentality where we start to let it slip, I think Sark also kind of mirrors that a little bit, and he'll make it more simple on the offense. It's harder to do motion on both sides, offense and defense, if you're not executing. And so I think he tries to simplify But Herman would do that, and every time he did that, the team would go into their shell. And so that's why I'm like, Sark, don't do that. If you like almost be overly aggressive, because the second that you show that kind of like, hey, we're going conservative, they switch right back into that mindset. And so that's why, like, you know, we can argue about go for it on fourth down, blah, blah, blah. I almost don't care. I want you to just do it. And so you're saying to your team, I believe in you. We're aggressive. We're not pulling back, because they do seem to go in their shell anytime that feeling arises.
Got you.
It's definitely, that's big. I like what you said about the mindset, the switch. Like if a defense knows that they don't have to be honest deep and side to side, you know, and in the run game, that's just an added element that they no longer have to worry about. So it 100% is a mentality of, I can't be beat deep, so I'm just going to, you know, I'm flying to fill my run gap and I'm coming in to make plays. You know, it's like just a more aggressive mentality defensively. There's definitely something to that.
Gotcha. Hey guys, and talking about the defense. Hey Jay, man, thanks for this the super chat, man. So so talking about the defense, man. Yeah, I like Landon's idea of trying Sanders on the D line if he wants to. Thoughts, guys? This is something that I think every one of us six have been screaming since this kid has gotten on campus. Right? We've seen the actual usage rates here at the tight end position. I think between Wiley and Brewer, I think there's only 11 or 12 targets, right? And those guys don't get the ball at all, which I don't understand. And why is Sanders playing tight end if he's not going to see the field and we don't use a tight end on the field? So what's everybody's thoughts on him going to the defensive side of the ball and being one of those guys who can cause some havoc off the edge? Clint?
I think it's a 1-2 thing for him. We had Mike Roach on here, I think, a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking to Mike Roach, and we asked him the same question. He really doesn't follow, he's more recruiting versus the team aspect on 247. But we asked him, and it sounds like it's a 1-2 thing. He wants to play tight end. That's where he wants to play at. Obviously, probably upside to me, it's probably defensive line. A guy like that with the athleticism that he has, bending around the corner, is something we don't have currently. But his thing, do you want to go up against an offensive tackle 70 times a game? Trying to get around those guys versus, playing tight end and be able to split out, because I think he's always wanted to be that, split out wide receiver tight end guy. So I think it's a 1-2 thing versus, his decision versus what we really want him to do. And that, to me, and Jeremy will say the same thing. Absolutely. Right now, we probably need him on the defensive line versus being, fourth, fifth string tight end, still trying to work through becoming a tight end in college.
Yeah.
We also can't get targets because you can't. The tight ends don't exist for pass. They have to help the tackles.
They do.
Period. Period. And so the reason I hear it all the time, why aren't we getting targets? It's like, I guarantee you Sark would love to give them targets. He can't. They're having to constantly couch next to the tackles, put H-backs behind the tackles. I mean, they are using tight ends as run blockers and pass blockers. You send Wiley out, great, but they're getting right through that line, and you're not going to be able to hit Wiley. So that's why it's frustrating too, because I can't get mad at them. I know why they're doing it, but it's just like, I want to see Wiley on the seam once,
And that's where the whole scheming around your deficiencies kind of comes into play. It's kind of interesting too, though. I mean, I know Jatavion Sanders is going to do what he wants to do ultimately, and that's what we want from as fans. We want him to make that decision for himself, whatever he feels is best. But you look at just the numbers of salary in the NFL, right? The average, the highest paid defensive ends making about $15 million more than the highest paid tight end. So, but another thing too, man, if you're a defensive end in today's NFL, you catch touchdown passes. They'll have packages mixed in for you if you're really good enough at it. As an athlete, they'll get you on the field.
Yep.
Hell, even defensive tackles. You guys remember Sapp when he caught the touchdown pass? He's doing like the Beyonce dance in the end zone, right?
Yep.
You would think that Jatavion, by the way, is our highest rated recruit on the entire team, the highest average out of high school. You would think that with our receiver room being so suspect at times and not very deep, that maybe they could flex him out or something to get him on the field. And if not on offense, because I go against the grain, I actually think he's a better tight end than defensive end, but he's got to be on the field in some capacity, especially when you have Jet Bush out there and guys like that are walk-ons. I mean, in the front seven, we need all the juice we can get that we just don't have right now. Jatavion is, the sky's the limit for him. So even if he is raw, like he's obviously not polished yet, but you got to throw him in there, I feel like.
Yeah, especially with the Jacoby Jones injury.
Yeah, and I think to your point, Myers, I would say I think his pass catching ability is what he's really great at, right? Because wasn't really asked to run block or do any of the blocking stuff in high school. You know, Dan Ryan, he's playing the X and throwing the hand up. You know what I'm saying? So, but to Myers' point, he gives you a different dimension if you want to use him in that manner, and just not even ask him to do any of the tight end stuff, and just use him in that manner. Maybe red area and give him a little package or something. Maybe, but he's also, you know, they're big on what are you doing behind the scenes? Are you showing it consistently in practice? And tight ends are the hardest one to develop, going from level to level to level. You see it at the NFL. It takes them 2 or 3 years before they're really know what they're doing. Most of them, unless you're a Kyle Pitts today, right? That type of person aside, it's going to take time.
Yep.
I got you. Hey guys, so just kind of staying just strictly on, the offense side of the ball here, right? So we got Worthy, right? So Worthy has balled out 3 or 4 times this year, right? Last week he wasn't the best last week, and I don't think it's because of his game. I think it's because we missed Jordan Whittington so much last week, and I don't think people understand how important he is to this team. You know, so he is our guy. Like, if you go and look at Jordan Whittington, you see him making the tough third down catches, right? You see him drawing somebody to the actual center of the field, which gives Worthy the opportunity to go deep and to catch some deep balls and things of that nature. So, hey, guys, let's just talk about that. Let's talk about Worthy, how he's doing this year, and what this coaching staff can do better to get him schemed open.
They schemed him up. I mean, that's what happened. I mean, that's why you didn't see a big performance. And if I'm always thinking like I'm a rival team, I just have to guard Worthy. I'm just going to bracket Worthy. We're fine, And so that's why Whittington was so crucial. And that's why even like quick thing back on Jatavion, at least make him game plan for it.
Yeah.
At least make him think that there's a weapon, make him waste an hour of game planning on whatever night.
Just put it on film.
Just put it on film. Right, because we don't have enough weapons. So any weapons we do have, put it on film, give them 3 plays, so they at least have to waste time prepping for them. Because we don't. It is Worthy, So that's why. But you're going to see that as soon as he balled out in Oklahoma State, I texted Around the Table Sports, Ty, y'all know.
Yeah,
and I was like, all right, now the game actually begins. Now they're going to scheme him. So it's time to see.
Yeah.
Hey, Homer. So honestly, I said against OU, that game was a gift and a curse for him, right? Because it was a gift because he was great, right? It was a curse because it put everybody on notice that he's great, right? Yep. So we see him go out for 260 something, like yards, whatever, and now he's on notice. He is, freshman All-American mid-season, freshman,
His
everything.
face was on ESPN.
Yeah. He's on ESPN like on every other second, right? So, so that was a gift and a curse for him to show how great he was, but also, teams kind of just took notice at that point. And hey, man, Oklahoma State, actually just did like a halfway decent job of covering him, man. And we had no other options, man. We had no other.
It shows a lot about him too, just as a player outside of just his physical skill set. He was able to bounce back from the fumble on their kickoff return, which is just, that's a big time thing to have to handle as a true freshman in that environment. Your first time playing in that game, and then to bounce back and immediately make 2 big catches to get give your team a fighting chance, right? He caught the deep ball over the middle on the deep post and then got in the end zone on that crossing route. But I just love that Sark. That tells a lot about the coaching staff and what we all believe Sark to be, as well as his staff together. That play happened when he fumbled on the kickoff return, and there's reports now. We have confirmed information that Xavier Worthy walked over to the sideline dejected, but Sarkisian met him and said, "Hey, man, just give me a smile." That's all he told him. And then the very next, the ensuing play is when he made those, or the ensuing drive is when he made those 2 big plays happen. So that was cool to see.
I think the answer to Jordan Whittington is a 2 running back set with Keelan Robinson and Bijan, or in Bijan, and literally putting one of them out, put one out in the slot, and then have a linebacker or safety that's going to be over the top of Xavier Worthy have to come down and deal with Bijan or Keelan in the slot. That's the answer. That is the simple answer to the test, because Marcus Washington is not going to be able to do what Jordan Whittington did in space. Yep. Moochie Dixon, he probably can. He's one of those slot receiver guys, those quick quick twitch guys. But the answer to me is flexing one of those Keelan Robinson or Bijan Robinson out out there in the slot and make those linebackers or safety cover one of those two guys. To me, that's the answer to the test.
I love that.
It is funny that you say that, because as soon as the game was over, I text Homer and we said the same damn thing. We were like, why isn't Keelan Robinson on the field? He needs to be in the field. He needs to have two backs out there. Get Keelan and Bijan in the backfield together, split them out, put one in the slot, do something. Put your playmakers on the field, right? Put your guys who are going to make plays. And we see that Keelan Robinson has like a 6th gear, right? It's just something about his speed. The dude has a 6th or like a 7th gear, right? So he just makes things happen. So why not have a guy that, you know, when he's on the field, nobody can keep up with him. Nobody can keep up with him. And he has proven, he's shown that he can catch the ball well. You know, he's shown that he's tougher than I thought he was at 195 pounds. He's a tough dude, man. So, hey, he needs to be in the field as much as possible.
I thought Oklahoma State was the game to spread the backs out and get them in the slot, because we just lost Whittington. So my only thought was they're going to shut down Worthy, and it's not Worthy's fault. If you have 2 or 3 people on you, the quarterback should not throw that ball. It's not even if he's really covered. It's just that they're near him, you know? And so that was kind of in my breakdown. I'm like, this is the opportunity. Like we saw in the beginning of the year, bring Bijan into the slot. You saw what he did. And then that stopped, you know, and then same with Keelan, but it's like, you don't have to throw it to Keelan. That's not the point. You just make them respect that he's out there and get people out of the box.
Respect that speed, man.
Homer,
you gotta respect
did that in the first drive.
And
they got sacked.
Right.
And then we never saw the guy again. He had a jet sweep motion for 25 yards.
And
then
again.
it's like, all right, go block some punts. Are we serious?
Yeah.
And to your point about the Bijan thing, right? Didn't we move the chains with Bijan from the slot, getting isolated on a backer, and we moved the chains there? Both of the things you just said, they did on the first drive. Where I'm confused is to how you get back to your script and these people are gone.
It's like they check it off. You know, they're like, done with that play. Now we got to go to another one.
They're like, Keelan,
that's exactly
got him.
what it feels like.
Bijan got him, you know? Yeah. I mean, that's crazy.
It's
so talking about that too, Bijan got 15 carries in the first half against, I think, Okie State, right? I think 6 in the second half. Now, I'm not saying that we overuse Bijan, but sometimes, man, when you're in the game that you got to win and you know that you're kind of talent deficient, you got to go win the game, right? And, to be honest, we haven't run Bijan in the dirt all season. He's, I think, averaging 23 carries a game. I think like a total of 25 touches a game. So we're not killing him. We gave
prior
him
to TCU. It was not egregious.
Yeah. It was nothing. TCU, he had 35 carries, right? I think 36 or 37 touches. But even if you don't give the ball to Bijan in that second half of this last game, somebody has to get some carries. We just abandoned the running game, and we went 3 and out on 4 out of the 7 drives in this last game. We had 2 turnovers on 2 out of those 7 drives, right? One was an interception, and one, I think, was a turnover on downs. And then we had 1 touchdown, right? So that second half was just like anemic. And I don't know what the problem is with us like adjusting. And that goes for the offensive side of the ball and the defensive side of the ball. But me and Steven talked about this earlier as well. For the defensive side of the ball, you can't get mad at the defense last game. If I would have told anybody that the Texas defense was going to allow 25 points against Oklahoma State, everybody and their mom would have been happy about that and said that we won that game. Right, guys? I'm not too mad at the defense in that last game. They're getting gassed out. I think the last game they had 47 plays in the second half. That's
there's no defense that they all have a breaking point.
Georgia
has a breaking point. They all do. So that's the thing too, is like at some point, if offense doesn't help at all, the defense will gas. It's a matter. It's gonna happen.
It's gonna happen.
So question. So do you think the all gas, no brakes mantra on the offense side of the ball is turning us into what Oklahoma was, over the last couple of years, where you're able to score, 50 points. Your average points is 50 points a game, but then your defense is so gassed, they turn around and give up, 45 points a game. So is the all gas, no brakes mantra really, doing something on our defense when they're out there? Let me see. I think one of the offenses ran 60 plays to our 60 plays. You're talking about a 20 play difference. That's a lot of play time.
Yeah. You know what?
And I also think it
so,
goes
man.
the opposite. Oh, go ahead, Nino.
So like last game, first half, defense was good, right? Our defense was good. We were all gas, no brakes in that first half. It's like the second halves, we're not all gas, no brakes for some reason, and it's like we give up 3 and outs all the time. It is what it is. And then like our defense gets totally worn down. But I can see if that was happening in the first half and our defense was allowing 3 or 4 touchdowns in the first half, but that's been the opposite. They've actually played really well in the first half when our offense has played really well. It's when our offense doesn't do their thing in the second half and they go out and only have 20 plays in the whole second half. And then our defense gets worn out and they just get killed, man. So, I think it's like his or her, on that nature there.
So aggression. So you got both your defense and your offense are both being aggressive in the first half, and then all of a sudden you get in a shell, or you get in a 2 safety look, and then all of a sudden they start running the ball down your throat, because the middle of the field's wide open. I can definitely see that,
No, I remember watching Sark. Sorry, Lando, go ahead. You were trying to go earlier.
Oh, it's good, man. It's no big. I mean, I think we're all kind of in agreement on this, anyways. But I think that a lot of times it's the opposite to me a little bit. It's not so much that the offense is going so fast. It's just that we get to a point in which we're so handicapped in what we are afforded the ability to do offensively in the second half because of defensive adjustments that it's really the all breaks portion of that where the offense can no longer sustain drives, thereby forcing the defense onto the field much more often. And that's, to me, is really the biggest fact. I mean, that's how you give up 300 yards on the ground to OU right there.
You have 2 conflicting theories, right? If the coverage is cover 3, it's Pete Carroll, Seattle style. It's a bend, don't break, right? Which means that you're going to have more defensive plays, which is a problem. Then you have Sark's offense, which is explosive. He wants to score on 3 plays. So we talk about complementary football, but even when I was watching his clinic, that made no sense. And it still doesn't make any sense to me. And so it's not complementary. It's simply not. And we're also not a drive up the team offense. This isn't Herman's. We're explosive. Every time we've done well, it's chunks. And so that's kind of the problem is we have bend, don't break defense and explosive offense. Those don't work together.
Yes. Yeah. You know what, Homer? I didn't think about that. But also, man, we got an offense that is, supposed to be an very explosive offense, but we don't have the players, I think, to carry out that offense. We got Worthy, we got Bijan, but outside of those two, when it comes to guys being able to get chunk yards, we don't have those guys. Maybe Keelan. Thompson. Yeah. Well, Keelan, yeah, definitely, but we don't put him on the field. We don't put him on the field. It's almost like he's not even a decoy. Like, just make the man a decoy at least, right? So, but I don't think we had the players for his offense, but he's an offensive mind, an offensive genius. He should be able to scheme around those players, change your offense to fit the personnel that you have, right? Don't try to, fit your personnel to your offense if they're not meant for that offense. And a key example, and I talked to Homer about this last week, Casey Thompson, right? Against, Okie State, had the pick 6, right? So when you go look at previous games, go look at the Alamo Bowl. Almost the exact same play. That ball was thrown on, to the right hash, to the right sideline, and it should have been a pick 6 by Colorado. The guy just dropped the ball, right? Now, go to the spring game. To the opposite side, to the left sideline. Shark gets the ball, interception, pick 6, right? Go down to the last game against Okie State, back to the right sideline, pick 6 for a touchdown, Okie State, right? So we know that is not Casey's best throw. He shouldn't be throwing the ball to the sidelines. He doesn't have the arm strength for that, right? To go sideline to sideline. If you look at his metrics, it shows that Casey is very good at throwing the ball from the 5 to 15 yard range across the middle of the field. That's where most of his completions come from, and he gets a ton of yak off of those plays. That is what he is really good at, So I think it's more about scheming to the best ability of your players instead of making your players fit into a scheme that they just can't execute yet.
They do it on, first off, I have an NIL deal with Card, so I want everyone to be clear on that before, I talk anything about it. But the problem is, too, it's condensed field. Mm-hmm. So when you're doing that in the 20, that nickel's even closer. And so I remember when that play occurred, and we have seen it happen multiple times, and I was more mad at Sark because at some point you have to know your players, man. And if you're going to make that throw, you need to do it in wide field. But you just convinced – he was looking right there. And if you watch the earlier play, it develops into a second level play. He's supposed to fake it and then come off. And that's the time to do the second level. They stayed on the first level. So that safety saw that play happen already. And you're supposed to trick the safety at that point. They didn't. So the safety just came in and stole it. That's your opportunity to score on that safety. And so we didn't even call the second level of that play. And so that's why when it was thrown, I was like, Sark, you got to know your guys. You got to know it's condensed field. You got to know all those things. And so that's why it was kind of frustrating, because it's like, we know that already, you know?
Yeah. Another thing too is because of your weakness on the offensive line, when you're forced as a play caller to help out by adding a lot of times 2 tight ends, bringing those 2 guys into the box, that can hinder and handicap your ability to attack the middle of the field. Why? Because that also means when you have loaded boxes with 2 tight end sets in those personnel packages, there's also added defenders to the box as well, which are where? In the middle of the football field. So it takes away some of those quick RPO reads and stuff like that, the quick hitting stuff that gets Casey into a rhythm. A lot of that stuff is not there. And then even when he's able to, find a guy into a zone, he's having to fit a ball into a tight window. And then those break to daylight yak type plays they don't exist anymore.
Right.
Yeah, most definitely. All right, guys, let's talk about a little bit of offensive line, man. I know this is a sore spot in everybody's heart right now. It's the offensive line. All right. So
Angelou's doing well. Angelou's doing well, guys. Let's give him because seriously, he is doing well. He's one of the top ranked guys, and no one talks about it because he doesn't give up sacks really. So you don't have a reason to look at him. But Angelou's been doing well. I want to shout out Angelou.
Yeah. So he's been doing well. But look, guys, our tackles. If you go look at the tackle grades, man, I think I think Pro Football Focus, I think Carrick had an 8, and I think let me see, Christian Jones had a 12. What's that? Is that right, guys? Yeah, I think a 12 for Jones, and 8 for Carrick. What do we do to solve this problem on the line, guys? What do we
transfer portal?
Right. There's nothing you can do, man.
That's the quick answer. It's the transfer portal.
It is.
That's it.
It is.
That's it.
Try to get the Brockermeyers back. If they don't start next year for Alabama, that's the first phone call I'm making.
Well, and diagnosing the problem, they got misled before the season started. They thought the line was better than what it was, or else they would have already hit the portal. And so that Arkansas game was the wake-up call where it's like, I mean, even in the Louisiana game, when Card was getting hit on 13 of his 26 dropbacks, that's a red flag. But they probably did know there, but at that point it's already too late. And then Arkansas, they really get exposed. So before the season, when you have, and that's why we overrated the defensive line, because it goes both ways. And I felt like behind closed doors, if you're listening to some of the insider reports, the coaches felt like they were going to have a good season this year because they thought they already had some of what they needed. Going back to the point made earlier about guys they recruited, there's a lot of people on the offensive defensive lines that they recruited, so they felt good about it until we saw the product on the field. And that's the reality, again, that's been happening all over college football. Is the game start and all of a sudden it's not what you thought it was before the season started.
Yep.
Hey guys, I tell you what, man, you talk about the transfer portal, Clint, most definitely. If you'd have told me that we're going to get Keelan Robinson from a transfer portal and only use him, I don't know, 1 play on the offensive game and 4 times on special teams, I would have told the Texas staff, don't take him and get an offensive lineman somewhere in the portal, somewhere. Get some help immediately in a position that you're definitely going to need. We knew that the running back position was going to be fine, barring injury, right? We know Bijan. Everybody knows Bijan is probably the best running back in the country. Rojo is a good second back for this team. Brooks came in, he's balled out, for a true freshman. Running backs, you can find those. Like good offensive linemen are just so hard to find. So, if we would have known that we were only going to use Keelan Robinson for the limited amount of times that we have this year, I would have been more on board to go get some kind of offensive lineman, where the left tackle, guards, just anybody on the line. That's going to be nasty, man. And that's just something that we're lacking here. And I think that this is a true, call to all the high school seniors now. If they're looking at these games, you got to be looking and saying, I got this. I can go in there and play. I know I can go in there and play. Like, this guy's not going to beat me out next year. You know, so but also I think
your
that is the
selling
problem also. So that's the problem also is that the problem with Texas has been we have too long counted on freshmen to come in and save the program. The sign of a good program is when you got guys sitting in the back marinating for a while, and they come out as a redshirt sophomore, and now they're hell on wheels, right? Because they've been in the program for 3 years now. They know what's expected. They know that they can ball out now. They got the confidence now because they've been going against guys who are going to the league right now. So they got that confidence. They got that culture. They got that swagger. But if there's a kid that comes straight out of high school and you're telling him to, hey, go block the defensive tackle next year in 2023 against Alabama for our second game of the season, what's that kid going to do? He's going
to. That's the catch, but that's the catch-22. Even when you bring up the Brockermeyers, one of the reasons, like you even think about the Brockermeyers, right? If we ask them to hit the portal right now and they come here next year, they've had 1 year of weight room development inside of a program. Now it's Bama weight room. It's not, it's levels to this.
It's levels to this.
However, they knew from jump they were never ever going to play year one at Bama.
Yeah.
So development with that's why I'm a little more concerned. And I think you really do have to go the transfer portal route, regardless of who you get next year. Whether you get Cam Dewberry or whoever, you can't ask their Kelvin Banks. You can't ask them to be your left tackle right off the bat next year. Who else is doing that? Right?
I know.
You got to have like a buffer there. These kids go to Bama and they disappear for 3 years. And you forgot they went there. And then next
they come out for 1 year.
It's like, look at Evan Neal. Look at
first round pick.
Jonah Williams. Right? And so we got to have that buffer, which I think you have to, in my opinion, you got to go portal.
Yeah.
Okay. So real quick, I don't want to interrupt, but I've seen Austin. He's requested in the chat a couple different times. He's asked the same question, and I think Steve kind of summed it up right there. To me, Austin, it's the willingness to be patient with a coaching staff that is actually the right piece, like an adequate resume, a collection of individuals who know how to build and develop a program. So now I think is where that buffering period starts right now. Now they know where they're deficient at. You talked about going into the transfer portal and bringing guys in. It's not just that easy. You have to have scholarship spots available, roster spots to afford to these players that you're bringing in from other schools. Now the coaching staff knows what they have. They know how to address it. We're already seeing them be aggressive on the defensive line, right? With Bo Davis and PK, they've got 8 4-star players on the defensive line in the 21 or the 22 class now. They're starting to address that and build for those needs for the future. So I think that's like Steven said, if there's a buffering period that begins now, it starts right now.
Yeah. I have a video coming out tomorrow that's where do the Texas Longhorns go from here? And we go into the recruiting and the transfer. And we said the same thing, like recruits, man, like you hear the fans and including myself, it's like, oh, we just need 5-star offensive linemen. It's like Steven said, it's like, that's a 2 to 3 year process
to this,
you know? And so it's like, do we put in the younger, like, where are we at? Are we going to play young guys and build them up? Or are we going to keep trying to do portal like next year? Are we going to have at what point are we putting in the guys who are with us next year? And so that's kind of what I'm seeing and how the roster turnover is going to be. Because after year one, man, the coaches will give you your hint if they want you to be there or not, any cultural stragglers or stuff like that. So I just don't know how different this team is going to be even next year. I want to see if Sark turns over the roster, like a 30 all got to go. And we're going to bring in everybody who's a culture fit, Yeah. And so it's just, that's what's interesting for me.
And I wrote this down because I think it's important that when you're talking about this coaching staff and you're talking about development, you're talking about where they've been at before, they know what it's supposed to look like. They know what it's supposed to look like. Kyle Flood knows what an offensive line is supposed to look like when we move to the SEC. Bo Davis coaching at Alabama knows what an SEC defensive line is it's supposed to look like. And I think the list goes on and on and on. Pete Kwiatkowski and Budda Baker, he knows what he needs that star to look like, and it's just getting these guys either from the transfer portal, which it sounds like it may be an early Christmas for Texas, once the season's over with some of these guys that may be transferring from other programs that are originally from Texas. But then also bringing those guys in, but we have to land these 5-star guys that we can't miss out on. A Jacoby Matthews, a Denver Harris, a Cam Dewberry, these guys that are going to make your program that much better, but they have to understand and I think Kyle Flood can sell them on that, is that if you had a 5-star that's sitting there, just realize you're gonna sit for a year. We're gonna develop you. Hell, you may sit for 2 years, but on that third year, you come out, you play like you were talking about Evan Neal, and then all of a sudden you're drafted in the top 10 in the draft every year, and that's the program that Alabama's been able to put year after year after year, is just drafting, or really recruiting 5-star after 5-star after 5-star over the top of each other.
Yeah, most definitely.
Because if you play those young guys right off the bat next year, that's fine, but we all got to readjust our expectations as fans.
Yep. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
We cannot go in thinking we're going to go win the Big 12 with a bunch of freshmen offense. I don't care what school they played at. We
That's
all
true.
have to readjust. So if you want to go that path and you don't hit the portal and you're saying, hey, Tyler Johnson, some of you other guys, it's time for y'all to go find a home elsewhere, then we got to readjust our expectations. But if we want to come out here and say we want to win, because, to go to a positive side, I like our offense. I like our coaches.
I do.
I really do. Like,
Absolutely.
It's going to be a good product. It is. It's just, we got to replace a few parts in the car. But, I'll pass it back. I like what we got, man.
But I agree with you, though, Stephen, because I think we have a tendency as fanatics of this program that's been mediocre for 10 years to start going down that negative road. Believe me, we all know it. We try to do post games after losses. That's where you see it the most, and that just wears on you. I tell the bye came at the perfect time. It was like I got time to reset. I know Steven's probably got time to reset. Everyone that does a show up here has had an opportunity to reset, because that is rough. But I think from a positive aspect, like you're talking, Steven, is that the offense is there. We've seen it, and I think in as sporadic as it's been, we've seen it. Who'd have thought we would have been up by 3 touchdowns on Oklahoma at halftime?
Right.
Yeah.
They were supposed to win a national championship this year, right? And we came up and we had them 3 touchdown lead at halftime. Who would have thought that? So I think it's there. I think it's just tweaking some of these missing pieces to make it what they want it to be.
Definitely.
The frustrating thing is, on the offensive line, we have the guys that have been in the program for a while. Christian Jones has been here for 3 or 4 years. Angulau is a senior. Majors is our youngest guy. He's a sophomore, but there's a bunch of experience. Denzel Okafor was in there forever, and he didn't look great when he was playing either. So was Herb Hand really that bad? You think back to that quote about Sam Cosmi from one of those NFL scouts saying, like, he's got a lot of talent, but some of the worst technical skills he's ever seen.
Yep. Yeah.
And look at Cosby now. He's doing well once he got new coaching. So I think Herb Hand really hampered the development of everything that we have. And I think the way you address it now is you have to recruit really well in this class. You got to close on Devin Campbell in particular. That's the number one guy, because Kelvin Banks and Dewberry are going to be harder pulls. But Campbell's a guy that he grew up a Longhorn. Like, you have to close that out. But also you need to supplement that with the portal and go find some proven guys, so you can have Campbell and hopefully Banks and those guys sitting for a year, and then in year 2, you turn them loose.
Yeah, definitely.
I would love to hear Homer and Steven actually talk about that, because we had a fantastic conversation at the Cotton Bowl when we were there together. There's a long history, almost like a laundry list worth of evidence now of players that underproduce at Texas, get to the NFL as day 2 and 3 draft picks,
and kill it.
They're key. Yeah, they're productive. There's Brandon Jones, Sam Cosmi, Charles Omenihu there, who's been injured recently. Poona Ford. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Caden Stearns. Everybody wants to give Caden Stearns hell. He's killing it right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And even Colin Johnson's finding his way. He's been cut a couple times, but he's sticking on NFL rosters and making plays. And so it's like, I don't know.
This Charlie's group of coaches, we played worse, but that was a stronger staff because you had D1 guys, accredited guys. The first iteration of Tom Herman's staff, if I'm the Board of Regents, I'm not approving that. Right. Straight up, I'm not approving that. And you saw what happened when that occurred. And so with Herb Hand, there was clearly neglect there. You can see what schools he's at now. You can always see where they go next if word's out on him, and he downgraded all the way down. So word's out on him. When he jumped over from Auburn, we got a little trick, but that's the part that's tricky, man, is that with Charlie, we had like legit developers. Like whenever I talked to Quandre, he's like, no, they were doing a good job. Like when I got to the NFL, I was actually knew some things ahead of other rookies because of their development. But I've never heard even half of that with Herman's staff. So there was just clearly, and also if you never were D1, how do you really know how to coach D1? How do you really know what it takes development wise? And so that's why I think you saw the regression, because they probably thought they were killing it, but they weren't. They had no frame of reference,
When I had the conversation with Caden Stearns, I told him, I was like, I already know you're going to go to Denver and blow it up over there. And he said, and he was like, dude, I know the whole defense already. And he was like, I feel like I'm free because I'm not asked to do a million different things anymore. He's like, I got to Denver and they're just like, just play free safety. Just play free safety. I don't need you to go over here. I don't need you to go over here. Just do what I asked you to do, whether it's cover 2, cover 3, what have you. But at Texas, he's like, dude, it's a blessing and a curse because I played everything. Mm-hmm. And when you have all of the transition and all the different voices and somebody talked about the bad habits. Oh, we have it here on the screen.
Right there on the screen.
Right? Yeah. I mean, that coincides with players. So, yeah, when they get to the NFL and Brandon Jones is basically just asked to be a C-ball, hit ball guy, and it's like, oh, I don't got to do all this thinking, all of a sudden they look faster. How many Texas guys have you seen get in the NFL? And it's like, bro, were you that fast at DKR? Like, we see it all the time. So, that's why we got to stay the course with this staff, though, and have some patience for once. And I know that's not a buzzword around here we like to hear, but seriously, we do need to have some patience with the current staff. If we believe that they're all the guys, so that we have that consistency year over year with these kids. It's not fair these kids to be starting from zero every offseason. It's not fair. And it hurts your recruiting in the long run.
Yep.
Gotcha. So just talking about this comment here, man, so me and Steven kind of talked about this a while ago too, about just the mentality of players, right? So, once you change and have a brand new coach, right, they have their way of doing things. They have a process, right? And that's across the board when it comes to any kind of leadership. There is a process. I go through it with the military every 3 years. I have a new leadership team, a new process. All right. So when you have a new boss and that boss says, hey, this is how we do things here, once things get to chaos, and Clint can kind of back me up on this. Once things get to chaos, you go back to what you're most used to doing. And so that's what some of these kids are doing now. They're going back to their last 3 to 4 years of coaching, when things get tough. And that might not be the best thing. The process is what the new staff has in place, and just trusting them, believing them, because these guys have been winners. These guys are definite winners across the board. You got Sark, you got Flood, right? You got Jeff Banks, you got PK, you got Choate. These guys are proven winners. So trust the process. And if you trust the process, then good things will happen. It might not happen immediately. It might not be today. It might be next year. But what they're doing right now is laying a strong foundation for this team to build on, so that next year you're not going to be rocky and sway a lot because your foundation is so strong. You're going to have those built-in lessons that when things get tough, you never rise to the occasion, folks. You always fall down to your training, to the level of your training. That's a military term that we always say, guys. So, hey, when things get tough, you never rise to the occasion. You go down to the level of your training. And when these guys trust the process and trust the training that they're getting from these coaches, I think sky's going to be the limit, because like Steven said, these are really good coaches. I like what we have here, like on staff with Sark and team. They are really good coaches. We just got to give them time.
Just check the resume. Just look at the resumes. It's different. Like, they understand the difference between most recent staff to this current staff. Like, predominantly made up of University of Houston, and then now predominantly made up of University of Alabama. Like, I've been outspoken about that on my channel. So I'll just go ahead and go on record here too. I think I speak for all of us when I say this. You guys can comment if you'd like, but this is the right staff to me. I feel like the pieces are finally in position to make this happen, but it is going to be, as we're seeing it, there's a buffering period that has to occur. And it's just part of the process.
Or even keeping them, because Flood's a head coach. He can get poached. Banks is a head coach. He can get poached. AJ Milwee could even be a head coach just as a young upstart guy because he was an offensive coordinator at like 9 years old. And so it's like we have a lot of guys. Choate, he was a head coach at Montana State. And Banks and Choate are both in the running for Washington State right now.
Yeah.
And that's a hard thing for them to turn down. You could be a head coach, triple your salary. Y'all are from the Pacific Northwest. I mean, even when I heard that, I was like, oh no, because that actually makes sense for either one of them to go there. And so that's when I first thing with the staff, I was like, yeah, they're great, but we have 5 head coaches on this team, and so it's like, can we keep them together?
Yeah.
I'm okay with people getting promoted out of jobs. I mean, I remember, and this is an old Tom Herman quote. I want to develop my coaches. Now, did he do that? Probably not. But that in football talk, that's actually what you want. If AJ Milwee, I'm sure Steve Sarkisian knows his ambitions. We know what Jeff Choate's ambitions are. Jeff Banks, all these guys. What the goal is, I don't want to fire a coach because that's what we've been doing. The year before, we fired the whole staff, right? And then it was like, all right, except for like Stan Drayton got stayed, right? And so it's like, I don't want to fire coaches anymore. If people are leaving and we have turnover, it's because we balling, right? And it's like, I got to go get that receiver coach over there. I got to go get that DB coach over there. That's fine, but I just can't be like, oh man, Terry Joseph's not vibing with PK and we got to go in another direction. That's what I can't have anymore.
And I think the good thing is I think PK is not going anywhere. I think he'd have taken an opportunity a long time ago to probably be a head coach. He's going to be a defensive coordinator until the day he gets out of college football. So I think at least you get an offensive guy in Steve Sarkisian and a defensive guy that are probably defensive, these defensive coordinators going to stick around for a while. You don't have to worry about leaving, and then they kind of replace the guys. Hell, Jimmy Lake at Washington, he may be available sooner than later. We may be able to grab him from Washington.
Co-defensive coordinator.
Co-defensive coordinator.
Co-DCs, baby.
It may happen sooner than later. Who knows?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, PK saw the writing on the wall there clearly, dude, because he dipped and then Washington just cratered.
Yeah.
Yeah, the ability to develop talent too. I've seen a couple comments about that, just the talent development. We all know that is an issue at Texas. We can, we've always had success recruiting, but recently the player development has dipped. But that's kind of a lot of times we say that without really fully understanding what it means and like having full context to, okay, yeah, Texas hasn't developed players. Well, why have they not done that? I think we just discussed why. So again, looking back at PK and his tenure there at Washington, it's crazy. There's just the numbers of the people that he put, not only taken from 2-star and 3-star recruits in high school and then turning them into first and second round picks. Yes. PK in 5 years at Washington had 10 guys selected in the top 2 rounds of the NFL draft. And in that same tenure, Texas had 1 guy in total. And I think that was Malcolm Brown. So the defensive Malcolm Brown.
Yeah. Big Malcolm.
Yeah.
But hey guys, but also, man, signs of like teams that are actually good are when your players become the coaches. All right. So Steve Sarkisian should be able to have the game plan in, so he needs to have everything in. He is the head coach, but he needs somebody in that locker room who is, I'm telling you, 100% bought in, who is the guy telling these guys, hey, we're over here today. Look, we're going to have 7-on-7 drills today here. Look, we're eating dinner here. Everybody here. Somebody has to be on this team that is going to be the organizer of all this talent. And when I was at school, that was Vince Young. Vince Young was that guy. He was the guy who had the 7-on-7 drills. I remember seeing him and like a baby Colt, sitting behind him, seeing all these drills. I was driving players. Yeah, man. Yeah. A baby Colt. He was fresh out of high school, right? 18-year-old kid. Seeing, both the Shipleys, not just the older Shipley balling, but he would bring his younger brother up there when he was 12 or 13 years old, and he would catch passes from Vince. It was a family affair, and that was all through Vince Young, right? I was driving Robert Timmons up to practice and, going and sitting out there. All the media could sit out there and watch these guys play 7-on-7. But this team needs to have somebody that is 100% bought into Sark. And I'm not saying that these guys aren't yet, but they need somebody that is going to be an organizer of talent on this team. And once that happens, once these players start coaching each other and actually become the coaches on this team, then that's when we are going to see this team actually thrive and take off.
Yeah.
So look,
Bajan is a nice guy, but Bajan's our best player, but he's so nice,
He's
I
so
almost
nice.
and so he's never gonna choose someone out. But sorry,
Yeah.
Clint, I was just adding that.
No, you're good. Going back to like Nino's talk about leadership, I think leadership, when you go back to look at, how, Coach Herman did things in the way that he treated his players. I think that has a piece of it. When you have a leadership council and those are the only guys that you lean on to be that leadership piece, it doesn't allow those other guys to have an opportunity to step up and actually be a leader. So I think honestly that's going to take some time because they've been a certain way for 3-4 years in the way that they've been treated and the way they've had to do things from a leadership aspect. I think that's going to take time. Do I think there are guys? Absolutely. I think it's going to be hard for Bijan to be that guy. Obviously the best player on the football team. It's going to be hard for him to be that raw. Hey, get over here. Hey, let me put my foot down your throat if you don't do it correctly, because that's just not who Bijan is.
Yeah.
But I think that's going to take some time, and I think it's going to take time because of the way that the team was treated by the previous coaching staff over the last couple of years from a leadership aspect.
Yeah, Clint, it seems like this team is timid, and I think they're timid just for that reason, right? So last 4 years, if you didn't do well in practice, you ate soupy eggs, right? You had burnt toast.
Hydration, dude. Your chart was wrong.
You had a P chart going on. Yeah. A lot of that is not necessary. These are Division I athletes, right? These are the guys that are essentially paying this coach's salary, right? Let's just keep it honest. These guys are putting money into the school, which is essentially paying this head coach. So when you tell a kid that since you didn't do well in practice today, you're going to eat runny eggs and burnt toast, like, come on, man. Like, how was that motivating a kid to do better now? This isn't 1960 when all that was acceptable and, you're so hard. And I'm not saying that, this is like a me generation, instant gratification. Yeah, it is. But, there's a different way to lead these kids these days, right? You can't do that 24/7 and expect the kid to turn around and do great things for you, right? That's just my opinion.
I watched a video with Gundy where he was saying that what were you saying? I just lost my thought. What were you saying right before that, Nick? Sorry.
The whole kids when it comes to instant gratification.
That's what it was. He was saying that they asked him what's the biggest difference today from coaching kids in the past. He's like, you can't lie to them. And that's literally what it was. He's like, you used to just tell him like, hey, do this. Why? Shut up. Just do it. And so his biggest thing was you can't lie to this generation of kids. And I thought that was really telling about how 1960s football is compared to now, where he's like, they're smarter than that. You can't play these mind games with them. They figure all of that out. You need to be open and honest with these kids, or else they know that they don't trust you.
Yep. I think that's why we have so much friction sometimes on Twitter and social media platforms with generations of fans, because there's certain people, like some of the older folks, that are like, well, why doesn't the coach just, whip them into shape, and that type of thing. And it's so much more nuanced than that. Yeah. And I totally agree. It's sports psychology within itself. Like, you talk to people about Nick Saban. Nick Saban's energy is totally different inside the building when there's no cameras, no media there. He is not treated like, all the kids are like, Nick's not an ass. Like, what are you talking about? Like, he's, he gives us instruction, he gives us scheme and guidance and technique, and he'll hold us accountable when we need it, because all the great players want to be coached. All the great players want, if I'm screwing something up and you hold me back from getting more money, then show me what I need to fix, right? And so I completely agree. I think a lot of these kids, more than ever before, are totally self-aware. I mean, these kids are seeking personal trainers. These kids are seeking workout coaches in the off season. They all posting their videos on IG left and right. We know they're working.
You know they're working. Yeah.
Yep.
Hey guys, first off, hey Justin, thanks for the super chat, guys. So he asked a question here, guys. So what improvements do we think we'll see after the bye week, and do we think there is any lack of confidence from the guys? And I'll start on this, guys. Improvements from the bye week. Get Keelan involved. I mean, that's all I want to see, guys. I want to see Keelan involved, man. And when it comes to lack of confidence, I think this is a different staff. After they got blown out at Arkansas, it could have been easily said that, hey, look, they got blown out. They know that they're not as tough as they thought they were. Maybe there's a letdown. Now, I know that That game was against Tech and it was against Rice. Those were, I won't say gimme games, but the Rice game was a gimme game, right? So that was a confidence booster itself. Tech wasn't, because we're seeing Tech's actually doing some pretty damn good things here in the Big 12. What are they, 5-2 now?
Columbia, the second stringer, is like playing really well for them.
He's playing good. Yeah,
really good football.
Yeah.
He got his first action against us, didn't he?
Bombs away, baby.
Bombs away.
He did taper off in the second half against K-State, though.
To be fair, Steven.
I mean, because they were up big, and then K-State just randomly came back, and I think they won that game 25-24. But Columbia's a wild boy, though. He's out there with the hair and the cross on his face. So, I like it.
He's like a brunette sunshine, man. You got him with sunshine? He's like a brunette sunshine.
I also wanted to add to that, the first part of that, and I think the second part of that question actually is multifaceted. It's kind of a loaded question, and that's up for discussion as well. But to me, after the bye week, I want to see more Alfred Collins at the jack and more Jalen Ford at the mic, and I'll be content as long as DeMarvion Overshown stays healthy.
Definitely.
All right, hey guys, just let me get this one thought out. I don't want to forget this. Lando, you said Jalen Ford. Okay. Jalen played. I thought Jalen played good last game. He had a couple misses, but he was physical. He was fast.
Physical and fast.
Yeah, he did things without thinking, which I liked. He's part of that crew that came in the last year of Herman, so he's not too tainted, right? And so, hey, as a leader, I always tell my troops, I'm saying, look, guys, I want you to go fast. I want you to go balls to the wall 24/7. Look, I can always tell you to slow down, but I should never have to tell you to speed up, right? And so when I saw Jalen Ford playing, I was like, dude, this kid is fast. He comes with a purpose. He's physical. And it's like see target, hit target, go, right? And he's on it. And that was evident on that 2-point conversion, right? He sniffed the play out, right? So Spencer throws the ball to the left side and Jalen just finds the whole play, knocks the dude out for like a 2-yard loss. I mean, that was a perfect play. And I'm not talking hey, look, I'm going to talk bad about Brockemeyer because I like the kid, but that's the kind of sideline speed that we need. We need a guy who can go sideline to sideline like that 24/7. You couple that with Demo, and I think you have a good linebacking core that can play here in this conference.
That's 100%.
A lot of it was mental too. Like when I talked to Card for our video, they were implementing like mental health stuff. And so I truly think the coaches did not know what they were getting into psychologically. We all did as fans. We've seen it. But they immediately kind of back. And so Card was telling me, he's like, yeah, they're implementing some things. And I also wanted to push back because it's weird to be like, you guys are all mentally weak. Like, I guarantee you there's some kids on that team that are like, no, I'm not. But just as like a whole, it's like,
collective.
I was like,
collective.
Yeah. So it's like, what are we, we doing mindfulness? Are you doing visualization? Like what mental techniques that you can utilize to actually help you like pre-visualize situations? Because clearly we're really good with a script. If coach says do this, this is your job. As soon as we have to fight on our own, making our kind of own decisions there, we tense up. So we're really good with a plan. We win all bowl games with Herman. I mean, we're good if you give us a solid plan. But as soon as you're like, all right, cool, now we're going to get into the flow of the game, we're going to do some inside. That's when everyone's like, whoa, I don't know the plan.
Yeah. I think that answers exactly the second part of that question about just the confidence level. Like, will they be lacking confidence moving forward? I think there is a little bit of that, the psychological component. And I'm glad to hear you say that. It tells me the coaching staff also understands and they're going out of their way to address it. But there is a little bit of a believe it or see it before I believe it with this team right now.
Yeah.
And that so I think that's also something that we have to think about.
Yeah. One improvement that I want to see for the last question next week against Baylor is I want to see our defensive substitutions to be cut down a lot because we're just constantly running people in and out, like groups of people, and they're sprinting. And I think that's part of the reason that our defense gets gassed down the stretch. If you watch, we're just like sprinting Vernon Broughton, just like mass subs over and over again. We need to like find our 11 to 15 guys and just roll with them. I feel like it seemed like every series we had a different pair of safeties in with Brendan Schooler. And I think Adam Morrow needs to definitely be playing. I mean, he's been great for us his first 2 years here. And he's kind of disappeared this year because Anthony Cook has broken out. But, yeah, I want to see the defensive substitutions cut down a lot. It kind of feels like Todd Orlando right now, and I think that has an effect on the team down the stretch. And also, going back to the confidence, the part of the question about confidence is this team doesn't really have people that have won. I mean, we have one class, 2018 class, that's like mostly gone by now, that's played for a Big 12 title. Nobody else in this team knows what that feels like, and it's hard to create that culture. I mean, looking back to Tom Herman and everything, we were not a great team. I mean, but one thing about us is we were super physical. I mean, like regardless of who we were going to play, 2019 LSU, we would push them around a little bit in the trenches, even with lesser talent than LSU at the time. We would target, we would injure ourselves a lot, but we had that edge, that little bit of confidence about ourselves, even though we weren't well coached. I think we're still trying to find that with Sark because he's more of a laid back Pete Carroll type, and I think we're trying to find that edge again because clearly we're better coached, but we just don't have maybe that that physical culture yet. So we need to definitely get that going here.
Yeah.
That's great.
Hey Myers, I got to say something though about that, man. With Herman and team, yeah, I think we were definitely more physical when we were the underdog. And it's like anytime we were the underdog, this team played lights out, whether we won the game or lost the game. So like USC, LSU, every OU game was competitive. Georgia. But as soon as we, got to be the team that was hunted, it's like they just completely broke down. It's like we weren't the physical team anymore. And I just don't understand that mentality. I think Herman did a great job of getting these guys up, probably because he was at Houston and he had to continuously coach and say, we're playing Lamar Jackson next week. He's the Heisman winner. And how are you guys going to stop him? Right? Mm-hmm. Or we're playing Florida State in the Peach Bowl. And, Jimbo's the greatest thing since sliced bread. He had a Heisman Trophy winner last year in Jameis Winston. We got to go beat these guys. So it was cool for him to give that rah-rah speech that we're the underdog. But at a school like Texas, and maybe this is us being like a little bit cocky, but we are a Division I school. Us in OU, when it comes to the name brands of this conference, we are the name brands of this conference, right? Everybody who plays you, that is their Super Bowl for that week. TCU, Kansas State, Kansas, OU, Oklahoma State, Iowa State, they all get up to play Texas because even if Texas is bad, to beat Texas, to just have the name on there that we beat Texas, right? Like we beat Texas. We don't have 5-star players. What did Matt Campbell say, like last year?
5-star culture,
players,
bro.
We got a 5-star culture, And so it was like, whatever, dude. But, hey, look, I get it. But I think that was the difference with Herman. When he was the underdog, used to being like the head coach at Houston, he could rally his troops to go through a wall. But when he was expected to win, it's like he couldn't get that same motivation from him. And like that's one thing I couldn't understand.
I agree with Myers too about the strength thing because we lost so many people. Mm-hmm. Like when he's running death camps and we did have those games where we were favored to win, whether it's against TCU or other games, but then all of a sudden we're playing Kansas and we got Court Jaquez on the field and all these other people out here who aren't even on scholarship because we're literally out of dudes. And but he also did the thing where that Dabo Swinney does, where they look ahead and they target a team and try to jump that team, and we ended up costing ourselves Maryland games, right? Because because we were so prepared to play USC and those type of things. So it's hard. That's why college football is so. I keep going back to this. College football in its entirety is bizarre right now. Yeah, because all these coaches are going through the same type of things and trying to, massage these things. Like you guys are right. We're jumping all these teams, and if you're talking about improvements to answer the question, don't screw up what you've been doing to start these games. I love it. I love trying to jump on people. Mm-hmm. I love trying to get margin. I think that's a great way to try to win football games. My whole thing is you have to play the game within the game and adjust the game flow, adjust to certain situations, and have a better read on your team as things start to slip away. Don't give up 3 points after you throw a pick six before the half. Go in 17-10 instead of 17-13. Mm-hmm. The small victories, just the little things. I'm not asking for this grand overcorrection, but they are lacking edge in terms of just physical, blowing people up. They had that with Tom Herman, but we are also healthier now.
And we can throw a
we
deep
still
ball.
have our people.
We could throw a deep ball.
Right. So it's like these trade-offs. It's crazy.
It's good. Hey, Steven, so just to piggyback on that, it's like our defense this year with all the subs that we have is like our offense of last year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like last year's offense, we would throw in 15 receivers in one game, right?
Your turn.
You would have Josh Moore. You would have,
we thought we were Kentucky
Brennan
basketball,
Eagles,
man. Platoon.
Jake Smith,
Platoon
and then like the next lineup would come in for the next series, right? You got Moochie, you got somebody else, and it's just like, what the hell is going on? Which that's one thing that I do like about Sark's offense is, I think in the first 2 games, actually, I think the first 3 games, he kind of played around with the players. He subbed in and out quite a bit. But once he got the conference play, he did kind of shorten up that bench, and it's almost like a basketball team in the playoffs, right? It's like a basketball team throughout the season, they'll play 10 deep, right? But once the playoffs come, it's a 7-man rotation, right? So who is going to get the ball. Those are your most talented guys. Those are the guys that fit that rotation in that game. And I think Sark does that with this team. However, on the defense side of the ball, hey, Myers, I'm totally with you, brother. It's like free for all. It's like we're playing like 22, 23 people on the game sometimes on defense, and it shouldn't happen that way, man. It is what it is.
Yeah. Do you guys think, though, there's a little bit of the coaches trying to figure out which groups work well together? I mean, there's some experimentation happening for sure, right? I mean, I would think anyways.
Yeah.
As far as the subbing in and out is concerned.
But some of that shouldn't be going on real time live. Like some of that stuff should be getting worked out a little bit sooner than in the fourth quarter of OU. Like when we're in a game, that's a nail biter. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
you can't learn much from a live game anyways. Like we all are analysts, and we all say when you're at a live game, you miss half of it because there's just so much going on. That's why the coaches, after every loss, they're like, I have to watch the tape. They can't even tell you why they lost most of the time. So if we are, subbing to learn things mid-game, good luck. It's like you.
Well, I mean, more so just putting stuff on film so that they can go back and study and see actually what works.
Yeah,
but
that's what they can do.
I agree, though. Yeah,
and that's why they're on the 3-4 now.
So I want to talk about adjustments when like the adjustments piece. I won't get into the mental health piece, but I want to talk about adjustments real quick. So what I think we need to do is I think PK needs to change his scheme up a little bit, not entirely from a three down lineman, but I think we need to see 4 down linemen. And my 4 down linemen are Colin, Sweat, Coburn, and probably a Jomo with some kind of Thornton and Gofu somewhere in there. I agree with you on Jalen Ford. That dude in this last game, he's fast, he's physical. He sees where he wants to go when he gets there. And I think your free safety is probably going to change. You're probably going to see Darian Dunn and Jameson probably play cornerback, and Josh Thompson's probably going to move to free safety after this bye week.
I like that.
Like that. I think that's probably what you're going to see. And the reason is
247. Didn't
247 they were talking about that, but I think it's a thing. I really do. Josh Thompson, I think he's played all over the field. He's played nickel. He's played corner. I think it's very. I think if you have a single high safety like a free safety, it allows BJ Foster to move down in the box a lot easier than having another guy like Brennan Schooler or Brennan Thompson. Not that they can't play free safety, but I just don't think they can move the same way that Josh Thompson's going to be able to move at that free safety. That's what I want to see.
Can you would you mind saying that again? I don't know if I was the only one that just cut out, but I missed the part where you're talking about your secondary adjustments. Would you mind?
Yeah. So Josh Thompson, safety, Darian Dunn, and Jameson being your cornerbacks, and keeping Cook at that nickel. Yeah.
All right, guys. I got a super chat here from Aaron Porter. So Aaron says, "Is Texas going to win out and beat OU in the championship? Hook 'em." Hey, Aaron, I think that is the best case scenario. That is what we want. I don't think Texas is going to win out, but I don't think the Big 12 is so sewed up. I think everybody knows that Oklahoma's going to be there at the end in the Big 12 championship game. But who is going to be that second team?
Can we talk about that?
It's wide open. What's up?
Can we talk about that? Because I think at this point it's safe to. I think you're right. Just assume OU's in. Right, even if they drop a game at this point, and I think they could drop a game, but I'm assuming they're in. The question is, we have a game against Baylor next week. If you're Baylor, you feel just as good as anybody else about your shot to make it to Arlington, right?
Mhm.
Iowa State feels great about their shot to make it to Arlington now after what they just did. If you're Oklahoma State, you're still in control of your own destiny, right? Just don't screw up. So all these teams, and then you add us to the mix. That's 4 teams. That's 4 teams. And then what? Kansas State, maybe. I mean, who else is in there?
Maybe
I'd say
Kansas.
those 4.
I think it's those 4, right?
Yeah.
But all of them. I mean, and in Iowa State, we got to go to Ames. We got to go to Waco. We're not like in that power ranking order. We have a difficult path, is what I should say, because this game in Waco, bro,
It'll be tough.
I mean. And I'm going there, and I'm excited. But I mean, you saw what they jumped Iowa State when Iowa State came down there.
Put the brakes on them.
And BYU.
Dave Aranda got that
BYU.
defense playing lights out, man.
Yeah.
No.
And Iowa State is starting to ramp.
They
Iowa
always
State
do.
yesterday looks better.
Yeah.
That's the best I've seen Brock Purdy play since maybe 2 years ago. How he looked yesterday. So those are things that I'm concerned about if we're looking at talking about trying to get back with the rematch with Oklahoma right now.
Texas is a team that cannot look ahead. And I've said this previous a whole bunch of times. Texas has to go and look at each game one by one. We don't have the luxury of looking ahead to any games. Like we've done things like that in the past. That is something that we cannot do. We got to play these games one at a time because we are not that Texas team from 2005 to 2010. We are not that squad anymore. It is what it is, And once Texas fans, realize that and understand that this is going to be a process. This is going to take, 3 years. I know Texas fans don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear 3 years. They've been hearing, well, you guys have been saying 3 years since Mac left. We had 3 years of Charlie. Yeah, definitely. 4 years of Herman. After year 2, it looked, decent. Looked like we were on the up and up. And then year 3 happens, right? And now we got Sark. So it's time for him to have his 3-year baked in plan. But hey, I'm with Homer on this. You got to get that man 6 years. You got to give him 6 years. We went all in on the staff. We paid a lot of people a lot of money on this staff. It's time to let them show us how good of a coaches they are. And I have faith in them. I have faith in them that once they get the recruiting cycles in, once they beef up the lines, we see what Bo Davis and PK are doing. We know that we're going to the SEC in the next couple of years. They have built up that D line up with those edge rushers, those defensive tackles. They have built that. That is an SEC defensive class that they got for this year. And they're not done because I guarantee you next year's is going to be just the same. So they are building that depth. Now it's time for Sark and Flood and Jeff Banks to go out and work their magic and get as many of these big boys to come here and just sign with Texas, man, because we got to start building depth in the trenches.
Yeah. And I think, too, if you also look at Baylor, we were just talking about them, so I think it's a perfect segue. Like, anybody out there listening right now, if you're just, concerned or just frustrated that you're thinking you're going to have to play this long waiting game yet again, Matt Rule showed you that it doesn't have to take 2, 3, 4, 5 years to transform a program. He had Baylor, a double-digit win team in a matter of what 2 years? Just one season, really, right? From that turnaround to happen. So if it doesn't have to be we got college football free agency now in the transfer portal. Like you can solve problems much quicker today in college football than you could years past. So
yeah, definitely. They should be hitting up every college kid that was a Texas-born kid, went to high school in Texas. They should be hitting all those kids up that are at some other school. I'm not going to say like they should be because they probably can't legally do that. But somebody needs to bring a list to the head coach and say, these 5 guys probably need to hit the transfer portal here pretty soon.
That's what SMU does. That's their whole thing is they go find all the 4 stars from Texas that aren't starting at big time programs. They're kind of second or third strings, and they bring them home. And then look at them; they just go dominate.
Yeah, but that's what
Tanner Mordecai. Yeah.
That's what Texas needs to do. Texas needs to go out and look at all these kids that have come from the state of Texas and that have left the state of Texas and are backing up somebody who's a a future star or a star right now at a good team, and they know that they're going to sit for another 2 years probably because this guy is a sophomore, right? And so, hey, come back home. If you're going to sit 2 years, sit home here so your mama can come see you play every weekend, right? And come be here at Texas and represent this state and come, just actually build something great. Steven, what's up, man?
I have a question for the group and maybe the guys that are, because I know a lot of you guys like Myers, Homer, Nino, you guys went to the school. To the point about what Homer's saying about give Sark 6 years. Do you think it helps that our administration is on point now with Hartzell, even down through Chris Del Conte? Because I feel like that was also revolving over the last few years, and oh, that's not my guy and all that. Can you guys speak to that in terms of the administration? Because to me, it's beyond just Sark.
Yeah.
Who was the president for us that used to be at the Portland Trail Blazers?
Patterson.
Oh, Steve Patterson.
I remember like all the words where he's like, I remember people legitimately being like, he's destroying it. He's trying to turn this is not how college football or whatever works. He was basically highest bidder bidding every part of the program. So I remember that period where they're saying he has to go because he's running this like a private enterprise versus a public enterprise. And then Finvez, people liked Finvez. I think they thought it maybe a little green or something like that, but I liked Finvez. Culturally, I thought he made sense. He was a little more focused on academics, right? Like he would rather us go to Pac-12. But Del Conte was like, nah, we're going to the SEC, man. So I think that's culturally, I think we will. And also he's performing. So by nature, he's going to be here longer, right?
Yeah.
Winning Director's Cup. So I do think 100% that some of the struggles were at the very, very top, especially strong early Herman was when the talk around school, was like, oh, we're messing this up.
Yeah. Hartzell's a McCombs guy. He's graduated from McCombs. He's definitely a Texas X that's into football, and that's super helpful. I mean, A&M has a really good administration right now from top to bottom that's really invested in their football program, and we finally have that now with Del Conte. Everything's rolling besides football, and Hartzell's the guy to get us back there. I mean, if anybody's going to do it, it's going to be them two at the top leading the charge. So yeah, I mean, we have the guys in place now. It's just you got to let it. It takes time. It's a little process to it, but I'm very confident in the administration. Whereas, with Powers at the end and Patterson, it got pretty ugly at the end. So we're definitely in a better spot now for sure.
Yeah, just to think and to truly make the move to the SEC, then you go link up with the governor. You go, an L type, and you're like, "Hey, man, are you going to block this?" And hook them. And so then, and so the fact to just make that move, that shows that we're dealing with a different thing because no previous guys would have done that. If anything, it would have been Pac-12. So we look like Mr. Smart School because that's very important to a lot of our previous guys. But you see that you really start limiting yourself when you want to just go be with the academic, like public Ivy,
Yeah, we're trying to compete with Stanford for that type of
Stanford
stuff.
and USC. Yeah, so, I think that CDC knows that this school is always going to be one of the top schools when it comes to just academics, right? It just always is. It's like that every year, whether it's in the Big 12 or it's going to be in the SEC or the Pac-12. It's always going to be a good school when it comes to academics. CDC has finally hired his guys across the board, basketball, football, the whole nine. So we saw what he was able to do at TCU to turn that whole department over. He did an outstanding job there. And so now that he has his guys now, he understands this school is going to be fine with the grades and academics. Let's go be great at football also. So if we're going to be great at football, we got to go play with the big boys. And, we got to get the recruits. And the recruits don't want to play against Kansas State. They don't want to play against Iowa State. No disrespect to Kansas State, Iowa State, West Virginia. The recruits that are in Texas, they want to play LSU. They want to go play Alabama. They want to go play against Texas A&M. They want to get that whole thing back generated. They want to play against Arkansas. They want to play against Georgia. They want those matchups, man. They just do. What's up?
Hey, Nino, they ain't trying to play at 11 a.m. 7 straight weeks.
Oh, God.
Oh, man, I'm tired.
I just had to throw it in. I'm sorry.
No, I'm so tired of playing at 8 o'clock in the morning, man. I got to get it's crazy, man. But, they want to play against the best. and CDC knows that the academics is not going to drop by us going to the SEC. Our donors are still going to be there regardless. Matter of fact, the academic portion might go up by us going to the SEC because those guys are going to be so much more heavily invested into the school now. Like, oh man, our football program is going to be playing against Alabama and Georgia, and we're going to be like good in the next 4 or 5 years. So yeah, I'll throw another $50 million down for the team. And people think that is a stretch. I used to work in the endowment office at Texas when I was there from 01 to 05. And I used to see the checks that came through there. And like, no kidding, it was checks got written.
Number 2 behind Harvard, dude. Like
yes,
we beat Yale in endowments. Like, it's insane.
So just think about that now. Once you go have a national brand, which we already have, and we bring it to the national brand for football. And we all know that this is a football state. It's a football crazy state. So guys are just going to fork over more money. And so CDC bringing in his guys is wonderful. I think he is the man that should turn this whole sports thing around here at Texas. And also he is going to assure that nothing's going to drop off when it comes to to these guys' school as well. So yeah, I'm totally fine.
It's an advantage.
Yep, definitely.
Because if you go to the Pac-12, now you're competing with Stanford, who has better academics. When you go to the SEC, it's you want to go to us or Vandy. So to me it was always like we have the education advantage in the SEC.
Yes.
So it's like, why leverage that? No, we want to go to schools that actually do have better academics. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And there's also there's a direct correlation too. If you just want to point to back evidence of Nino's point, is just look at the jump in recruiting A&M made before Johnny Manziel ever even got to campus. They made the transition to the SEC, and they start skyrocketing in the recruiting ranks. So that stuff's real, man. They want to play in the state of Texas, but also with the brand of football, the biggest brand in Texas, or the biggest college football brand of the SEC. You combine those two things, I think you've got a lot going for you. So,
and you have people that are at the precipice of realignment as a whole. They're in the room with how college football is really going to change. Because who knows? I mean, we'll see what happens with the playoff model. I mean, what gets passed and all that type of stuff. But like, I'm happy that those guys are in there, and we're going to be in the forefront of it, and not having somebody else make the decisions for us.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Yeah, we got a strong team here, guys, for the next 15, 20 years, I think, man. And it's just good to see that you got a AD in place right now who understands what needs to get done. He's been at TCU, and he saw what he can do at TCU, and he's brought that brand up. TCU was nothing. Let's be honest. Yeah. So he brought that brand up, and he can do that at a much larger scale here at Texas. And hey, he's been doing great things here. Just on the basketball side alone, going to go get pictures. I mean, that was amazing, man. So, yeah, man, I'm excited about it. So. Yeah,
TCU went down too. You can tell if you have a good AD. Whenever he left TCU, their sales went down, their tickets, their sports didn't play as well. I mean, it showed you that what he was doing for TCU.
Gotcha. So hey guys, I got another super chat, but we'll say that for the actual end here of the podcast here about the upcoming Baylor game. So we'll take our scores and our picks on that, guys. Let's see what else we got, guys. I'm just kind of scavenging the questions here. I've been kind of reading, low-key laughing. So if you guys see me laughing, it's laughing at some of these
Are y'all
comments.
hearing feedback?
Yeah. I'm hearing a little bit of feedback. Who's that?
Is the chat hearing feedback?
Yeah, I am a little bit. Is that you, Homer?
No, I don't believe so.
Not me either.
So y'all can hear it, right?
Yeah, I can hear it.
I haven't done anything.
I don't hear the back anymore now.
All right. Yeah, I'm good now.
I think I'm good now too.
Yeah, I'm good now too.
Yeah.
I wanted to address something funny that came.
Hey, it's Steven. Hey, Steven, it's your phone, man. It's yours. Yeah, yours is getting feedback. Yeah, I can't hear you now. Homer.
Yeah, I can hear you guys.
I can hear me.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yep. Mic check.
Steven, you there? Steven, Yeah, it's Steven.
If you take your headphones out, can't you do the no echo, just straight up talking to it on StreamYard?
Yeah.
No worries.
No worries. We'll just keep on with the conversation.
I'm honestly surprised it went that smoothly with 6 people in the same
Right.
same
I know.
feed until
Me
this
too.
point.
My score,
man.
my prediction is I was telling you guys before the chat. Baylor to me, I haven't finished the breakdown, but Baylor to me is Oklahoma State with a way better offense.
Yeah.
The defense
That's
is slightly
frightening.
worse, but you still have Dave Aranda. So to me, it's the same test, but harder. So until I see us pass the test, I'm going to have to say that it's a low-scoring clock control game where they run the clock out on us, and then Jerry's going to hit play-action passes, number 1 deep passer in the Big 12. He's going to hit deep passes on us, so if the secondary doesn't hold up, we're going to be in trouble. So for right now, I do not feel confident in a Texas win, even though as a Texas YouTuber, we all have to act like we always are. I'm going to be honest with you guys and tell you that I need to see it on Saturday.
Yeah. What's your score? What's your score, though, Homer? What do you think? If you had to just put a score on it.
28-35.
Okay. Baylor. Okay. How about you, Clint?
We're not taking 3 consecutive losses. I'm gonna put my Murder Orange glasses on. I think both teams are actually on a bye this week. So obviously they'll be keyed in on both teams. I think giving us a couple of weeks off to figure out what we need to do. I think a change on defense is definitely needed. It's not, again, we've seen that we were able to play to a certain point. We just got to finish. And I think we're not going to take 3 consecutive losses. I think we're going to outscore them because I think our offense is better than their offense. I think their defense is going to be good, but I think we're going to have more than 35 scripted plays for this game. I think Steve Sarkisian is probably going to put Casey Thompson in some better, allow him to be able to read the defense a little better than what he has done. I'm going 31-17. That's been all my scores the entire year. I'm going 31-17. Actually, I'll go 31-20, man. PK wants to keep it under 20. I'm going to help him keep it under 20, but I think we outscore them 31-20. We win in Waco.
Yeah.
Myers, how about you, Myers?
We really need to win this game really badly. I mean, if we lose this, we drop to 4-4.
Yeah.
All the recruiting pitches start looking a lot worse, even though it is year 1. I mean, you're not going to strike fire in year 1. That's very rare. But I mean, this is our 3rd ranked team we're playing in a row. And it's a very disciplined team with Dave Aranda. I watched that Baylor game against BYU, and I was just like, oh, no.
Mm-hmm.
Gonna be, the way that they were just kind of pushing around that O-line and blitzing and stuff, I was like,
they dominated.
Our O-line's going to have trouble. But I will say, I think it was Inside Texas someone was saying that we're making a really concerted effort to get Keelan the ball this next game, which I think will be huge for us. I'll put it this way. If we give Keelan more than 5 touches, just 5, I think we'll win the game on Saturday, because it's just like he'll break one of them. He will. I mean, every time he touches the ball, it goes for at least 20 yards. So, and then it'll just, it'll open things up for everything else. So I'm going to take Baylor to win because I just can't trust this team yet. And I think obviously this is their Super Bowl and they're at home and it's 11 a.m. again. So I'll take Baylor to win 31-28, but we can definitely win this game.
Yeah.
Lando.
I'm kind of where Clint's at. I think the schematical advantage that we've seen our coaching staff have, even in the losses, most recently the previous 2, the Big 12 losses, it's been so drastic. So if you give this coaching staff an extra week, regardless of whether Baylor is coming off a bye week or not, I think I give the edge to the Texas coaching staff in that regard. Figure out ways to overcome the weak points of your roster. And I think Texas is going to be able to do that. They've started fast against 2 really good defenses in Oklahoma and Oklahoma State. I mean, so I'll be excited to see what happens with an extra week to prepare and to put game plans together. And I think Keelan Robinson certainly helps that regard. We'll put a different dynamic into the Texas offense that will allow us not to just stalemate and to just stagnate throughout the second half. But I actually have a similar score for Texas offensively. I like it 33-24 for the reasons that I just stated. But again, that Baylor is a damn good team, and I know that Texas, this coaching staff, isn't going to be overlooking them. So Must win game though for me.
Steven.
Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Good.
We got you.
Okay. Abram Smith is a bad boy. That's a bad boy. He's. I mean, Homer, you're the one that has the grades, but isn't he right behind Bijan in terms?
Well, he's leading the league in yards per
leading?
carry.
I'm talking about in terms of how they're grading, like from.
Oh yeah, he's right there. Yeah,
he's right there, right?
Yep.
So they've looked good all year to me, and that's whereas we've had our moments where we've looked like, top 10 team, and we've had our moments where we've looked inconsistent. I also think this is not going to be the same type of road environment we saw at TCU, where Homer and I went to that game and it was like neutral site game. We'll travel well to Waco, but that's going to be a much tougher environment to play in. And Gary Bohannon is better than Charlie Brewer to me.
Yeah.
He's better than Charlie Brewer. And I thought that last year, even whether it was him or Jacob Zeno, I thought they were playing their third worst quarterback. So now that they've got Bohannon in there, we know what Tyquan Thornton is. We've seen him over the last couple of years, hand us some trouble too. So this game is very concerning to me. I would probably right now I'm not all the way through my Baylor prep personally. I would probably lean Baylor right now just because they're the more consistent football team. But I do think Landon has a great point about seeing this coaching staff capitalize off of bye week, and also understanding what's on the line for the rest of the season. Like Myers said, this is a must-win game. Every game's a must-win game, but for recruiting, you don't want everything just to fall apart and you have that 4-4 and you're 2-3 in the Big 12. But Baylor's it's going to be a real tough game.
Yep.
All right, I guess it's on me now. So, man, I'm a Longhorn grad, right? So, my heart is telling me Texas all the way. That's what my heart's telling me, right? My heart's saying, you got this. Texas all the way, baby. You're great.
You went to school during Vince too, bro. I went during Charlie.
I know. I went to school during Vince times, and I was all those guys already in college. So I kind of know those guys. So I know kind of like just the makeup of that team. Yeah, man. My heart says Texas. My head's telling me Baylor has been a more physical team throughout this whole year. Offensive line, defensive line, they're just a more physical team. I do think, just like Lando said, I think Sark is going to scheme a hell of a game plan here, for this game. And I hope he does, and I hope he makes the adjustments necessary in the second half to win this game. But if I had to put money on this game, I would say Baylor 38, Texas 31. But I swear to God, I hope I'm wrong.
Me too.
I hope I am wrong. I hope I am eating crow here in this show. I want to be eating crow here in this show Sunday night.
I don't mind picking wrong. I hope this game is like the game we had against Oklahoma State. I'm not exactly how it played out last year, but like Oklahoma State last year, where they were number 6 in the country. We went to Stillwater and we beat them.
Yeah.
When a lot of people, I don't know how many of us, Myers, did y'all pick Texas last year? I don't think I picked Texas in that game last year. Clint, did you pick Texas in that game last year?
I don't think so. I think Oklahoma State was lost. No.
I think we all picked that as a loss, and then they went there and proved us wrong. That's what I'm looking for in Waco.
That's
exactly my energy going into this game.
That's exactly what I'm looking forward to. I am picking Baylor to win this game. I just think they're a more physical team now. But my only concern with Texas is we've seen here for the, just for the second half of these games, for the last 2 games. Last week they only scored 7 points in the second half last week. Against OU, what did we score? 10 points in the second half, so it's a completely different offense. That's in the second half. They don't adjust well. I'm just hoping and praying that Sark can adjust well here against Baylor in the second half, assuming that he gets off to a wonderful start here in the first half, which we have evidence that he will. But that's not a given either. But if Texas gets off to a good start, please adjust play well in the second half, and let me please eat crow and come in here and say I knew they were doing it. I was just doing a double jinx on them, right? So, but yeah, my score would be 38-31 Baylor. I think Texas is going to score some points on them, but our defense has to get better at stopping them in the fourth quarter. But also, our offense has to do a better job of sustaining drives, getting points.
Drives.
Yeah, and taking some time off the clock to get the defense a rest. But until they do that, I can't have any confidence that they are going to do it, because here we are. This is the 8th game of the season.
This might be the game, Sark said it before the season. There's going to be a couple of games where we lean on Bijan, give him 30-plus carries. This might be one of them where he needs to do that for sure.
I hope so. I hope so. Well, brothers, man, that was a good
First
hour and
Roundtable.
45 minutes, man.
The fastest hour 45 of my life.
Hey, this was fun, guys. We got to do this more often. We should try to do this, guys, or we schedule this and do it on somebody else's channel, like every other, like 2 weeks or something like that, man. This was great. And it seems like the fans loved it. So, man, thank you guys for joining us on here, man. I appreciate it. And everybody out there, guys, go follow all of these folks on Twitter. Go follow all of them on YouTube. They got great channels, great content, and we do a great job, I think, of just giving you guys the content that you guys want. So on that note, man, I'm going to end this podcast like I end all my podcasts, man. I always tell you guys, don't be afraid to fail. Outgrow your environment. Understand your brilliance. Everybody's great at something. Just find out what you're great at. And on that note, guys, I'm out. Peace.
Welcome.
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 Welcome.